What up, player profiler faithful? It's Matty Kiwoom. Welcome to another episode of the Game Plan. This is a very special episode. This is the first episode in season. That's right. We are 24 hours away from kickoff Sunday. 8 straight hours of red zone. Goodness, can't wait for the octo box, the quad bots, the witching hours. Get it all in, and it all starts tomorrow, boys and girls. Very, very excited about today's episode. We're going to do a little bit of talking about Thursday Night Football, quick recap. Also, we're going to dive into some must-add players before kickoff tomorrow. And then, of course, we are going bargain bin shopping to get you ready to dominate your matchups in week 1. So, ladies and gents, children of all ages, get out your pens and your pads, and let's start getting ready to game plan and dominate week 1. So I wanted to start off the top of the show, and we're going to be a little bit different than last year's regular season content. But let me know in the comments whether you like it, or if you want to hear something else. If you want me to take a different route, we're going to have guests on in season. We didn't last year, we will this year. So just something to look out for. I do want to talk real quick about Thursday Night Football. A lot went down. Travis Kelce was out, and what we saw was an offense that needs Travis Kelce a little bit more than I was anticipating. I thought there was going to be some good wide receivers in that wide receiver room for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they were pretty terrible. 3 big drops, one that led to a pick 6, and ultimately was the difference of the game from Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore, I'll get to him in a second. But what we learned is that Patrick Mahomes is good, but Patrick Mahomes needs some Travis Kelce. I also have to wonder now, do they start thinking to themselves, hey, we can't go all season with just these kids? I mean, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, they're not getting it done. I did see Richie James hauling his lone target, so did Justin Ross. Maybe those guys get more play in week 2 and week 3 so that they can kind of hash out what they will before attacking the trade market. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans down in Tampa might be available. There's a number of receivers that could become available at the trade deadline. So you have to wonder, will the Chiefs be in on one of these receivers if these other guys don't shape up? But without Travis Kelce, we also probably learned, or at least I believe I learned, that Sky Moore may never be a thing. I don't want to overreact. It is just 1 week, and I love the prospect profile of Sky Moore. I love the reports that were coming out of camp. We saw the endorsement from Patrick Mahomes himself. I was very excited for Sky Moore. Matter of fact, I made a trade for Sky Moore maybe a half hour before game time, because I couldn't get this stat line out of my head. I thought it was going to be Sky Moore, 7 catches, 80 to 100 yards, a touchdown maybe, and your window to get Sky Moore would go shut and be locked up. Man, he was on the field a lot. That's all I can say. 0 for 3 in the passing game, and even if you want to count the reception that was called back late in the game, it was 15-yard reception, so he would have been 1 for 15. He had a carry for 4 yards. But you have to start asking yourself this question. Is Sky Moore just not good? He wasn't used at all in the passing attack in 2022 as his rookie season. And then this year, with no Travis Kelce, he was on the field a ton. He had about an 8% target share. 0 for 3. And if you want to Again, add that catch for context that didn't count for the penalty. What is 8.3%? Where does it go up? He didn't have a good day. Patrick Mahomes didn't throw to him. And what that kind of tells me, I would say, is one of two things. Either he's not getting open. Now, I haven't really looked at the film, the breakdown of the routes and how he was, what he was looking like on the field. But uh, it tells me he either isn't getting open or Patrick Mahomes sees him getting open and goes, don't trust him. Let's go to this guy. Don't trust him. Got to run. What is it? I don't know. I guess we have to wait and see. If I roster Sky Moore, there's no way I'm panic selling. No one's going to come close. Everyone's going to try to throw you low ball offers like a 24 third in your dynasty leagues. Not doing it. And in your redraft, if you're shallow leagues, yeah, I'm okay dropping. If there's maybe the hot waiver wire ad, maybe some of the guys we'll talk about here today. Yeah, Sky Moore, I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to be a thing. It makes me nervous. Was encouraging to see Isaiah Pacheco haul in 4 targets for 30 yards. I think he's going to be really good in that role. People were nervous because I think it was 40-20-20 about that split, but Pacheco had the most of that opportunity share. He had the most snap share. It seems like as he gets healthier from that shoulder injury, that he's probably gonna be their guy. And if he can catch those 4, I mean, he's shown that he can catch the ball, which is good. McKinnon was out there for his obvious role, and CH still is getting some love. Fine, whatever. But yeah, 9.4 fantasy points, I think, is what Pacheco hauled in your normal PPR scoring formats. If he falls in the end zone, that's a 15-point day, 16-point day, 15.4 points to be exact. And we're not all that upset about his opening Thursday. So I think we have to be encouraged about the Isaiah Pacheco and how he'll be used going forward. Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, he still played well. 23 fantasy points. Could have had even more points for that silly pick and those terrible drops. He would have went over some bonuses for you guys out there. So no worries about Patrick Mahomes. He'll get it done with anyone out there. When Kelsey comes back, he'll have 10 days now to recoup. So it seems like he will be back in week 2. So let's get ready to fire that up. So those are my thoughts on Thursday night football. But before I get into the waiver wire plays that you need to add right now, before kickoff, before I get into all that, let's hear from our sponsors about Bet Openly.
Hey, so many ask me, what's wrong with sportsbooks? Why so many of them fail? The answer is simple. They don't innovate. They're just casino sportsbooks on a phone. That's all they've been. There are a few that are doing a good job. We partner with them. Most of them, not so much. Until Bet Openly came along. Bet Openly said, hey, we're going to innovate. We're going to do something groundbreaking. We're going to have peer-to-peer betting in all states, and you pay 1%. When you win, you pay just 1% on your winnings. You heard that right. It's 1%. With code Underworld, you qualify for just that 1% transaction fee on Bet Openly. It gives you ultimate flexibility to set your own lines and browse lines that others have set. Think about it. That's what betting should be, and now that is the reality. BetOpenly.com. The code is Underworld. Check it out.
We're here on the game plan, breaking down week 1 so you guys can get them dubs. Shout out to everyone in the chat: Rob, Jeremy, Fantasy Plumber, Gavin, Jamie, producer of the show, Jonathan Lang, who says he will never stop believing in Sky Moore. Hey, like I said, if I roster him, I'm holding. I'm not in really shallower leagues where I roster him. If I would potentially drop him now. But yeah, I'll keep believing. I'll keep believing. But we got some questions here in the chat that I'd like to answer because this is benefits of the game plan in house in season. We're going to talk about lineup decisions. We're going to give you some tips that hopefully help you make those decisions a little bit easier. Gavin saying Michael Pittman versus Jacksonville or Elijah Moore versus Cincinnati, half-point PPR. Give me Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman's going to have a great year. I think Michael Pittman can have big games. And half-point PPR, you're looking for big plays. Michael Pittman can make those in spades. He's going against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week at home, so it will be from the confines of his home stadium. Give me Pittman for sure. In our ranks at player profile, we have Pittman at wide receiver 30, and we have Elijah Moore quite a bit lower than that. Actually going to be talking about Elijah Moore's teammate here in a minute. One more in the chat before we get into the must-adds. Where are you? I just saw you. I don't want to forget anyone. Oh, here we go. Rob, Would you put Jayden Reed in for Pacheco's 9.5 fantasy points in Fantasy Pros? I think I would, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about Jayden Reed later in the show, so stick around for that, Rob. Shout out to you. You're always in here. You're the man. Roy on Facebook. Shout out. Player profile Facebook. Antonio Gibson and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Half point PPR. Says, Pete Carroll says he will play without limitations just a few weeks after having a wrist surgery. Pete's always a liar. Give me Antonio Gibson in a game I think the Cardinals could smash. Love Stars. What's up? Khalil Herbert or P. Ryan in full point PPR? My gut is saying go with Khalil Herbert. He was very efficient last year. He seems like he will be the dude to start the season. We have him ranked at running back 33 this week. We do have P. Ryan actually at running back 23. Give me P. Ryan. Because I'm going to talk about another teammate on the show later of Khalil Herbert. So we'll get into that. Here we go. I want to talk about this. We actually made a video. Shout out to Jason Allwine, my fellow Trade God brother. And he put together a really cool TikTok. Check that out on the Player Profile TikTok page of a number of us here at Player Profiler giving our must-adds before week one. It was a really good video. So I was really inspired by that. Shout out, Jason. And I want to go over 4 players that I just think that fantasy gamers should look to add right now, because I think they could have a big week or a situation can shake up. And when that happens, these guys' value will skyrocket. So you want to get ahead of these players. You want to make sure you get these players now before their value skyrockets in. You don't want to get in when it's the hottest. You want to get in before it takes off, and that's how you can really make some value and really extract value from your leagues, whether it be redraft or dynasty. So here are 4 waiver wire ads before week 1. The first guy that I am going to talk about today is Roschon Johnson. So we have Roschon Johnson ranked running back 44 on our week 1 PPR ranks. But like I said, we have Khalil Herbert ranked all the way at running back 33. So I think that gives you a little bit of a range, if you will, because we don't exactly know. We believe that Khalil Herbert will get the majority of touches, but the thing about Roschon Johnson is he's a tackle breaker. He's a playmaker. He's good in the pass pro. He's a good football player, and he has the chance to be the day 3 breakout of the season. And the fact that he's only rostered right now about 24% in ESPN leagues, 34% in sleeper formats, you just got to go get him now. There's got to be space on your bench, no matter what your depth of a league setting. There's got to be room for a guy like Bijan Robinson, because the bell cow traits are there. And yes, he will be sharing with Khalil Herbert, but we've been perfectly fine rostering David Montgomery these past few years. He has been a sexy player. David Montgomery I'm talking about, but I think Roschon has a chance to have a little bit of that, a little bit of sex appeal, a little bit of spiciness, because I think this offense is better, right? If you've been checking out the game plan, if you've been checking out any of the work I've done at Player Profile this offseason, I've been very excited for this jump in his progression from Justin Fields, and a lot of that is, I think, stemming from not only him getting more comfortable in the league, getting more comfortable with his coaching staff, but also now he has a legit wide receiver 1 weapon. He has DJ Moore on the squad this year. And he could truly break out and help this offense kind of take that next step. And you're going to want a running back who has the chance to be on the field for all 3 downs on this team. So if you have the chance to add Roschon Johnson, now you got to do it, because if Khalil Herbert gets hurt, if he busts, or if they just decide, you know what, we're going to give it to Roschon, we're going to ride it with Roschon, you're going to have to blow a lot of fab or use a high waiver claim. I'm in some leagues where we still kind of do that old school waiver wire process, which is a lot of fun because you can trade those picks. And I got the I got the first spot in one of my leagues. And if Roschon wasn't rostered, he's on my team. Come on, he's on my team. But if he wasn't, I'd be looking to use that pick or leverage that waiver spot to really kind of jump up in the ranks. But I think Roschon has a chance to be a 70, 80% rostered guy here before Halloween. Like, I think it's that type of upside with a guy like Roschon Johnson. So get in now. Don't wait. Don't wait for that, because it can happen fast. And we all, if you've played fantasy before, when the bullets are flying, the chaos is ensuing, we are in the fantasy trenches. Value things of this nature, anything can happen really, really quickly. So if you haven't played fantasy football, get ready, because it is a doozy. Anywho, Let's move on to the next guy I'd like to talk about. And there is a little bit of a theme of this show. It's rookies and young players. Reason being, let me explain that a little bit, is in our seasonal drafts on ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, Sleeper, the best. Wherever you have your seasonal drafts, it tends to put the rookies a little bit lower in the queue for their ADP, so it helps, really drops their roster percentages. And I just think that these are the guys that you could see massive value bumps quick. So let's get to the next guy, who's also a rookie, but this is a wide receiver in Denver, playing for the Broncos, Marvin Mims. He's only rostered in 15% on ESPN leagues. That's 37% on Sleeper, still too low. This is a kid who was productive right away at a big time school with multiple quarterbacks, which says a lot to his ability, his overall ability. He had a breakout age 18 and a half, Marvin Mims did. That's 96th percentile. He came out, burned up the combine. We love that 4.38 speed, super high burst score. And the thing about Marvin Mims that I do think is pretty exciting is the history. And sometimes this is, it's fugazi. It's not real. But when we can look back on a coach and the decision he made and kind of the, what do you want to call it? Show your work. You remember that in elementary school? You write down the answer, the teacher would be like, no, half credit. You got to show your work. When you get to see the work, when the work has been shown by a successful coach in Sean Payton, you can't help but get excited about it when you see that pattern repeat. And what I'm talking about here is his first year for the Saints. I believe his first big pick was Brandon Cooks. Now it was a first round pick as opposed to a third round pick, or second round, last pick in the second round. So of course it has its hypes built in, but similar player to a Brandon Cooks, fast, producer in college. He's somebody who can absolutely dominate a game, and he showed that in college at the University of Oklahoma. This week, the Broncos square off against potentially one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. They get the home matchup against the Vegas Raiders, who just put their cornerback, Brandon Facyson, I can't always say his name right, Facyson, Facyson, on the IR. So they'll be down a man in a cornerback core that just isn't good to begin with. Side note, check out the cornerback rankings on playerprofile.com. I've taken it over this year. Cody did it last year, and this year it's me. So I'm very, very excited to kind of take the baton, run with it, take the mantle, whatever you want to call it, and kind of really look at football differently. I made a goal for myself this year to not just look at the fantasy relevant players, but try to understand the game a little bit more, try to get a feel for everyone on the offenses and defenses so I can make better educated decisions and learn more about the game. And this is something I'm very excited about because I think it's going to help me bring in a whole different perspective in fantasy football. And this week, to put the stats in the model using last year's stats, a couple other things in the model to give us our rankings. Vegas does not have very good cornerbacks. Matter of fact, Jacorian Bennett, who was a fourth-round pick, is going to see a lot of time on the field for that defense, especially now with Brandon Facyson out. So Marvin Mims could have a day. Jerry Jeudy is on the optimistic side of questionable, according to reports from Denver, with that hamstring injury, but it's still soft tissue, and they might decide to put him on a pitch count. Sean Payton did say that Javonte Williams will be on a pitch count, so he's not opposed to pitch counts, so that could be in store for Jerry Jeudy, which would allow Marvin Mims to have a lot of time on the field and really be able to produce in a home game. New coaching staff, they're trying to get Russ back. They're trying to get the hype behind this team again. Why not blow the doors off of a team that projects to be one of the worst on the season? So Marvin Mims hauls in a touchdown. He catches a 40-yard banger. All of a sudden, he's going to be a waiver wire darling. So if you have roster spot now and you're part of the 85% of ESPN leagues where he's not rostered, go pick him up. Make some room for him because, again, he has a real chance to be a difference maker in week one and be a difference maker in fantasy for week one. So get him now before that value goes berserko. It's some timing is everything when it comes to fantasy, and this is the time to get in on some Marvin Mims. The next guy I'm going to talk about is a player that couldn't be further from being a rookie. He has been in the league since 2018. I'm talking about tight end from the Carolina Panthers, Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was brought in on a multi-year deal by Frank Reich and new quarterback by Bryce Young. So Reports out of camp were that this offense used Hayden Hurst often and effectively. And when you look at their injury report right now, we have DJ Shark already listed out. Adam Thielen's questionable. Bryce Young has a pretty. I mean, they're on the road at Atlanta this week, indoors. Atlanta has a pretty good offense. Maybe they can score some points. This has a chance to have a really a fun game here in week 1. And if Hayden Hurst is the focal point of the Carolina offense and of a rookie trying to make his stamp on the game his first week as a pro, I'm trying to buy in. And I'm talking about a tight end that's not even 5% roster on ESPN. He's only 12% roster on Sleeper. He has been in a few leagues where I rostered Travis Kelce, he has been the guy that I've gone after right away to make to be my starting tight end for this week and potentially beyond if I have to. We have him ranked at wide receiver 27 this week in our player profile ranks, but I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute because his name's going to reappear again. So I'm not going to talk too much about Mr. Hayden Hurst. So I'm going to talk about him a little bit more here in the show. So if you want to get more Hayden Hurst talk, if you did not have Kelce and you're looking for a tight end replacement, you want to stick around for why he might be in the bargain bin, ladies and gentlemen. Last guy that I'm saying you need to roster now. Go pick him up if your bench allows it. If you don't have a stacked bench, you need some extra punch at the back end of your bench. You got to go get Donovan Peoples-Jones. DPJ, ladies and gents. He's only 6% rostered on ESPN. He's only 19% rostered. Excuse me, on Sleeper. This is a guy that's been low-key good. Not great, but good. He's flashed, and last year was his best year as a pro. In 2022, he saw 96 targets. He caught 61 of them for over 800 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He's a big play guy. But the reason why you want to add him now is he's gonna have a role on this offense. But this offense is what I really want to talk about because in the offseason, I talked about a ton here on the show. What they told us, franchise talk, right? Let's talk about that, planners. A little franchise talk. We love franchise talk here in the game plan. They went out and traded and gave Deshaun Watson $200 million a year ago. Stood by him when he was suspended 12 games. This offseason, they let Kareem Hunt walk. They did not address the running back position really at all. I mean, you could say, yeah, they traded for Pierre Strong, but that's not necessarily pushing that running back room to another level. But what they did do is they traded a second round pick essentially, or they moved back in the second round, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly the details, but they went out and spent significant draft capital to acquire Elijah Moore, and they drafted Cedric Tillman. So what that's telling us, what the franchise is telling us, is that they're going to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball a ton. They're going to put the ball in their $200 million quarterback's hands, and they're going to let him chuck it. And I know in the chat, Robbie, he's saying DPJ seems too touchdown dependent. You're correct. But in fantasy, we could use that, and we want to add that because the touchdowns could be there this week. And let's just say you don't want to rely on him over the course of the season, but I would say you might be able to. He's only 25. There's a lot that can develop in his game, but let's just say you want to flip him quick. A touchdown-dependent guy is the type of dude you could make that move. You add him now. He's like universally unrostered. Add him now. Put him on the back end of your bench. He hauls in 2 tutties this week against Cincinnati. All of a sudden, maybe you could move him for a Marvin Mims. Probably not. You could probably just add Marvin Mims. But you could trade him for something else. You can make a big move for it. So, DPJ, get him now. He's been effective. You know, he averaged right around 10 points a fantasy game last year. So, go and get him now before that rostering percentage goes to 25, 30%. Get him on your roster. And then even if you have to, you can make the old flipperooski. We're going to go bargain bin shopping, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to want to stick around for that. The best. It's my favorite part of the game plan in season is going bargain bin shopping for you guys. But before we do, I got to hear. I've been talking about this platform, Sleeper, a whole lot. So let's hear from Sleeper.
Hey, we're all starting new fantasy leagues all the time. And more often than not, where do we start our fantasy leagues at Player Profiler? On Sleeper. Because it's the best. You can imagine my excitement when I saw Sleeper rolled out Sleeper picks, baby. Now, you know I love Kenny Pickett, right? Week 1, who does he face? San Francisco. That's a bummer. So I'm going to be going less than on Kenny Pickett's projected yardage. and on whichever quarterback is starting for San Francisco in week 1. Probably not Trey Lance. But then who do the Steelers face in week 2? The Browns, right? We think the Browns are going to crank things up. So there you can say, hey, Kenny Pickett, more than his projected passing yards. And you keep on correlating. Elijah Moore, more than. George Pickens, more than. And if you pick up to 8, that's how you 100x your payout on Sleeper. It's called the Hail Mary. So if you use promo code Underworld, you get a $100 instant deposit match. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions for details. These Sleeper picks are live in over 25 states. Yeah, buddy.
It's Matty Kiwoom. We're back here on the game plan. We're about to go bargain bin shopping. But before I do, let me answer Kevin's questions here in the chat. Give me a prediction on whose value will grow the most after 1 week in Dynasty. It's Roschon Johnson. It's Roschon. His value's going to go up. We're talking about a guy who's going to become a perennial starter in fantasy this year. I truly believe that. I believe in the guy's ability to break tackles, make plays on an offense I project to be a whole lot better in 2023. So who's my prediction on whose value will go up? It's Roschon. It's always been Roschon. Kevin. Oh, baby. I'm just so excited right now. This is the best. Bargain bin shopping. And this segment is geared towards, the grind of the fantasy season. It's a lot less fruitful, I'd say, in week 1. We're not dealing with as many injuries, but maybe you roster Travis Kelce, Darren Waller's now questionable, George Kittle's questionable. So if you need a tight end or your quarterback, you went super late and you took Kenny Pickett. He's got a tough matchup against the Niners this week. So let's talk about 4 players, 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 receiver, and 1 tight end, that if you're in a bind and you need to grind out that win in week 1, here are some guys you could pick up, get them on your team, and play them for the first week in the hope that they can get you that W, because that's what we're doing here at the game plan. We're getting prepared to get them dubs. I could eat my dubs. Maybe I will. I'm just kidding. Jameis Winston, shout out to you, eating dubs. But let's get into the first quarterback. Sam Howell from the Washington Commanders. He is playing at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe the worst team. I was talking about the Raiders being the worst team in the NFL. Cardinals could be the worst team in the NFL. It seems as if they're they're buying their ticket to the Caleb Williams show, and they're looking to get a quarterback. It looks like, or at least just high draft picks, because that's the team that they've built is not a really good one. That's why I want Sam Howell. He's only rostered in 11% of ESPN leagues, 23% on Sleeper. We have him at quarterback 17 on Player Profiler. Last year, Arizona was the 3rd most advantageous matchup for quarterbacks. I know it's a new season, but they haven't really revamped that defense. So there's nothing to suggest that this defense is something that we're going to have to fear out of the gate. They're traveling across country from Arizona to Washington in week 1. That's always good for attacking bad defenses. And if they are going to be a bad defense, it seems, I want the quarterback that gets them in week 1. Like I said, the 3rd best matchup for quarterbacks last year for fantasy points. We don't have a lot to go on about Sam Howell in 2022 as his rookie season. He did get in 1 game in week 18. And he finished QB9. Not bad. I know it's week 18 and not every team is trying their hardest, if you will. But the fact that he showed competency in that game, and let's face it, Ron Rivera has not made it easy for him in his young career. He didn't start a whole lot, and then in the offseason, he was so non-committal. Saying Jacoby Brissett could be the guy. It's not just a guarantee. It's Sam Howell. But then, he made Ron Rivera a believer, because Ron Rivera came out and said that he actually wishes he would have played Sam Howell last year instead of Carson Wentz earlier in the year to get that kid more playing time. So he's really done a good job in this preseason to get confidence in his coaching staff and his teammates. So Sam Howell might be a sneaky player for not just this week, but if you're in a pinch this week, I think Sam Howell is that guy that you could put at quarterback. He is Konami-ish. He has shown the ability to run the ground. He ran for a bunch of yards his last year at UNC, which was only 2 years ago. I know we don't like to go back to college stats, but it was not that long ago. So I think he is Konami-ish. He will have Terry McLaurin. Also, seems like Terry McLaurin will play with that toe injury, so he'll have weapons. Him, Jahan Dotson, Antonio Gibson. there's some weapons in Washington. I think Sam Howell can be a weapon on the feet as well. So get Sam Howell if you're in a bind. The red flag that I will give for Sam Howell this year, I'm going to give one red flag because there's a reason that they're in the bargain bin, and you planners should know why. The red flag this week is that Washington could just run the ball a ton. They could just give Brian Robinson 48 carries because Ron Rivera loves it. They might not vote, but they also could want to showcase Eric Bieniemy's new offense. So that's why I'm excited about Sam Howell. That's why I'd be willing to play him in a bind. But there's a red flag. They could just get up early and just run. So let's move on to the running back. That's Evan Hull, running back from the Indianapolis Colts. He's only rostered 13.9% in ESPN leagues, only 14% in sleeper leagues. So pretty similar rostership percentages across both platforms. We have him at running back 49 in our week 1 running back ranks. But we also have Deion Jackson ranked at, let me just double, 36. Again, sometimes when we're not exactly sure of roles and opportunity shares, you could kind of use both of the running backs as kind of your middle ground, kind of like the high end, the low end. So just as easily as Deion Jackson is a top 35, top 30 play, could easily be Evan Hull. And here's why. Jacksonville was actually really good at defending the run in 2022. They didn't give up a whole lot of fantasy points to running backs on the ground, but they did, however, give up a lot of running back points in the passing game. They were not great at stopping opposing running backs from catching the ball and scoring fantasy points. They were actually the best matchup for opposing running backs in the passing game exclusively. So Evan Hull, we like Evan Hull. He is a guy who can catch a lot of footballs. Last year at his last year at Northwestern, which was just last year, he caught 50 plus balls, over 500 receiving yards. He could be a passing game weapon. No JT, obviously, he'll be out the first 4. Zach Moss has already been ruled out, so it's really going to be him and Deion Jackson. And Evan Hull is a guy that we've been excited about, I think, in the whole fantasy community, probably throughout the entire process, because we just see a kid that, yep, he doesn't have the draft capital, but he does have a game that I think could translate really well to the NFL here. And he pretty athletic kid. I mean, we're talking about 4.4 speed, 80th percentile speed and burst score, 82nd percentile agility score. So it's a kid that can produce. And Deion Jackson, here's the red flag I would say for Evan Hull is that Deion Jackson wasn't bad in the passing game. I think he had a 10 target game, if I can remember correctly, in 2022. That doesn't mean everything. There's a new coach in town for the Colts, so things could be different. We might not be looking at a whole lot of checkdowns at all because of the quarterback in Anthony Richardson. So there are some red flags, but if you're an absolute bind, you're in running back hell week 1, Evan Hull maybe could be the opposite. Just change one letter in that hell, you get Hull. Could be the guy who saves you and gets you that win in week 1. Let's move on to the wide receiver that I think could be a bargain bin player for you in week 1. Is Jayden Reed from the Green Bay Packers. The Packers will be at Chicago. Jayden Reed's only rostered in 16% of ESPN leagues, 19% of sleeper leagues. We got him ranked at wide receiver 32 going into week 1 because there's been some weird reports, some bad reports if you roster some receivers in Green Bay, but not so bad if you roster others. But it seems like Christian Watson is out. He is been ruled out. Romeo Doubs was questionable throughout the week. It seems like he will play, but he's not going to be at 100%. And you bring in Jayden Reed, who was taken, top 50 pick in the NFL, 4.5 speed. Best comparable player is Stephon Diggs, that player profile. So the skill set is there for Jayden Reed. He pretty much took over the slot role immediately in Green Bay and has just continued to impress. Had a nice touchdown reception from Jordan Love against the Patriots in preseason week 2. So if you are like me and believe that Chicago does have a better offense, the Packers might not be able to just run the ball and get out of there with a low-scoring win. I'm assuming that will be their game plan, which would be Jayden Reed's red flag, because they would probably prefer to just run A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones a whole lot and come out of there with a slim victory. But I don't know if the Bears are going to be. I don't know if they're going to allow that. I think they're going to come out guns ablazing, looking to score some fantasy points, looking to score some real life points, obviously, and that could push the pace of the Green Bay Packers, push them to have to throw the ball more. And without Christian Watson, there's a clear hierarchy hole right now, and it could be filled by Jayden Reed. And I think the skill set of Jayden Reed is somebody that I want to take a shot on. And if I need to play him in week one, I'm not bummed about it. Like I said, he's not really rostered. So if you need a bargain bin player, you need to go somewhere and pick up a receiver. Get Jayden Reed. I think Jayden Reed this week is a big is going to be a big plus. And against the Chicago Bears, Tyreek Stevenson is right now projected to be their third cornerback, a rookie. So it would be rookie versus rookie. The matchup doesn't present to be all that difficult in terms of the cornerbacks of the Chicago Bears in opposition to the receivers of the Green Bay Packers. So it's kind of lining up for Jayden Reed to have a pretty dang good game to get it started. So go get Jayden Reed. And yeah, he could be even if you don't need to start him, put him on the list of guys you should add before the season starts in your seasonal leagues. So Jayden Reed is a bargain bin player if you need a wide receiver. Let's move on to the tight end position. Tight end position isn't always the most important when we're shopping in the bargain bin, but I do think it has the most win potential for the bargain bin players, because tight ends, if you follow the South Harmon fantasy football guys talk about warp, it gets pretty flat at the tight end position early, which means there's not a whole lot of wins above replacement. So I mean, tight end is a dumpster fire. What are we gonna? Let's just call it what it is. It's not great outside of the top 4 or 5 guys. So if you're just going to play tight end roulette, why not start with Hayden Hurst? I think you should roster Hayden Hurst anyway. I said at the top of the show, but especially for week 1, there is no DJ Shark. Adam Thielen is questionable. Jonathan Mingo in that case would be the leading receiver. But reports coming out of training camp in Carolina is that Hayden Hurst is going to be used often and effectively. And we all know how rookie quarterbacks can gravitate towards the easier pass over the middle of the field, tight ends of that, players who run those routes, tight ends are those players. And they brought in Hayden Hurst on a multi-year deal. So they like what he can bring. They like the skills, and his matchup is really, really sweet. In week 1, he takes on the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Again, potential shootout. Sneaky shootout, I would say, indoors, or it could be a snooze fest because Arthur Smith loves to hashtag establish it, which would be the red flag for Hayden Hurst, is that there's just no fantasy points scored because there's not a lot of football points scored. It's just long drives, Sanders, Hubbard, Bijan, Algier. It's not a whole lot of scoring passing attacks. So that would be the red flag for Hayden Hurst. But in terms of the matchup itself, last year, the Atlanta Falcons was the second most advantageous matchup for receivers and the 6th most advantageous matchup for tight ends exclusively. They gave up over 4.5 points to the median. So they were giving up almost 5 more points than the average last year, which means they were a great matchup. 6th most advantageous for tight ends. Give me Hayden Hurst. We're looking at tight ends. We're looking at what? 6 catches, 50 yards, and a touch. Could put you in the top 8 on the week, top 10. Give me Hayden Hurst to do that this week. I like Hayden Hurst, and I like what he's going to be able to do for the Carolina Panthers. And I also like what he's going to do for your fantasy team. So go ahead in the bargain bin and get yourself some Hayden Hurst if you need tight ends. So let's review. Let's do a little recap. If you need some bargain bin players, go ahead and look in your leagues because they're probably available. They're not really rostered. You could pick them up, play them, and get some points to help you get a week 1 win. Sam Howell, quarterback from the Washington Commanders, plays at home versus the Cardinals. Evan Hull, running back from the Indianapolis Colts, takes the Jacksonville Jaguars on at home. Jayden Reed, wide receiver from the Green Bay Packers, is at Chicago. And Hayden Hurst goes to Atlanta. He is the tight end for the Carolina Panthers. So those are your bargain bin players. One more question in the chat. Roschon at 12. So he says, this comes from Kevin. Just got Roschon at the 12 team for Hull and Thielen. I have Khalil. Oh, great trade. Great trade. I think getting Roschon even if you didn't have Khalil, was a total win here for Hull and Thielen. Because I just said over there when I was talking about Evan Hull, there is some red flags as he heads into week 1, and Thielen could miss the game. And then that trade was not going to be on the table a week from now. So great job, Kevin. Way to get that done before the season. And that's it. That's going to be a wrap on episode number 1 for in season. Let me know in the comments what you liked about it. What would you like me to do? How we can morph this? Like I said, I'll have some guests on, and we could do however the planners want it. The show's for you. The show is to help you win your matchups, get you those dubs, get you in the playoffs. So anything you want to see, you let it know in the comments. If you have any lineup questions, you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at Matty Kiwoom. Playerprofiler.com/chat gets you in the Discord. If you have questions for me, lineup decisions, anything of that nature, you can find me there. I'm always active talking fantasy football, along with other members of the underworld. Also, if you leave a comment on this video, lineup decision, trade decision, whatever, I will make a point to get back to you. I will make sure that these questions are answered, these comments are answered here on YouTube as well. So if you have anything for me, go ahead and find me wherever to go ahead and ask away. I'm here to help. We're here to get them dubs, ladies and gents. Cornerback ranks are live. As I said at the top of the show, I have an article coming out previewing the top 10. So you want to be on the lookout. All my articles are coming out at playerprofiler.com. Videos on demand. The game plan, trade gods every other Wednesday with Jason Allwine. Futurecast is back. We're planning our second episode, me and Theo Greminger. So we're talking college and keeping our dynasty boys and girls ready to go for the next wave of NFL talent. And if you just can't get enough of Matty Kiwoom, go to patreon.com/theexecutives. That's where Cody Carpentier and I's Patreon lives, and we're doing a whole bunch of cool stuff there as well. So that's going to be it. That's a wrap on episode 1 of the regular season. Oh, it feels so good to be back. Planners. So just keep game planning, my friends, and I will see you next week.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.